I've lived a long life and I've learned so much, experienced so much, but the bottom line is I still go back to the ancestors, to the people who have that wisdom, that knowledge. And one of the teachings that I learned and that was constantly reiterated was that this knowledge, this wisdom, is not yours. You are only the vessel, the vehicle to share with others who also have that right. And so at this point in my life, I have come to that realization that that's where I need to be, to share the good and the positive, but to the people who it belongs to, and to the people who will use it in that way. Who we are as a Lakota people. In 20 years, I envision our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren using the language at home with each other, just because that's where it needs to be. That's who we are. We are not about making media to teach language. We are not about, making dictionaries. We are not about making money. We are Lakota people, and the language is our life. It's our communication. It's who we are. It determines how we will live our life, not only within ourselves, but with each other. And that has to become strengthened. And so in 20 years, language should be a language. It should be oral, but also we have people who are literate in it. And that is my goal. That is the only purpose for my work in Lakota language. For now, while we go do what we are meant to do. And we understand where the young are coming from, because we've been there learning the language, learning English as a second language. As first language learners of Lakota language, we experienced learning English just like the way they're learning Lakota now. But there were, the strategies that were taken for us to learn. It's sometimes not popular, but that's okay because it worked, but for some of us, we maintain that language despite some of the abuse, some of, the atrocities that you hear about with the language loss. So, we look at that, we understand where these learners are coming from. But we also, unlike English, they have to also know that there's an important part of Lakota language that they have to embrace in here, spiritual people, as people of a nation that think of themselves as a whole rather than individually. And so a lot of these, they call a lot of what I'm talking about old school. And so I guess we are old school, but we also know the reason that we know these things and the reason we do what we do. And it's to hold on to the principles of our ancestors, the beliefs, the values, because those are an important part of who we are as Lakota people. So that is where I am coming from. I don't like to correct people when a woman says a male term inappropriately, because they tend to see us as being this person that is a know-it-all, and so we don't like to come off doing that. And so it's there's a transition somewhere, there's a line somewhere that we have to meet and say, okay, today is a new generation. There are so many things to relearn, to learn on both sides. How can we do that? How can we come together without losing those values, the principles of who we are as Lakota people through the language. And so that is a challenge that I have to embrace, because I don't see too many of our language speakers coming forward, because that's just not their way. And I guess I'm old school, but I can be new school also. You say, when people today say "he honey washte," that is actually not Lakota thought. That is English thought being said in Lakota, because all we did was we took good morning and we said it in Lakota, but it's not the thought. I remember growing up, and people would, upon greeting each other or seeing each other, they would say, "He honey lachji," oh, it's a so early in the morning, like, so what are you doing this time of the morning, or they'd say some greeting like, "Oh, ni tayo he," or ni toni jahe. Or, they say, it's inquiring upon their well-being, and, they don't say good morning because we don't know if it's a good morning for that person. It may be for us. And those are words that we are becoming aware of losing, the thought about behind language. And that's really that's significant, because as we have Lakota language teachers who are going into the schools and teaching the language, and many of these teachers are young, and they may not be fluent speakers or as first language learners, and so they don't have that Lakota thought and philosophy already. So they are taking English thought and translating it to Lakota. And a good example of how that happens and is being used in the classroom is the Berenstain Bears. Now that's an English story, English tale, children's story, but it's been taken and translated to Lakota. So you have now a Lakota story with English thought. Okay. What really should be happening is we tell our stories. Example, the Iktomi story. Tell that in Lakota to our children so they understand why these stories are. Okay. What is the purpose of Berenstain Bears, story to our children, to our way of life?